Have you ever asked yourself a question that you were almost afraid to hear answered? What if I had chosen differently? What if I had moved to another city? What if I had studied another major? What if I had not met that person? What if I had left sooner? What if I had tried harder? What if I had not said that one sentence? For many people, regret is not a single thought. It is a room they live in. A room with the same movie playing again and again. And the strange part is this: regret does not only hurt because of what happened. Regret hurts because it whispers a fantasy. It says, there was a perfect version of your life, and you missed it. Tonight we will sit with this pain gently through the Buddha's lens. Not to erase your past, not to rewrite your story, but to help you stop bleeding from memories that have already ended. We will explore a teaching that is simple, but life-changing. Your experiences were not random, but they are not punishments either. They are teachers. And the goal is not to become perfect. The goal is to become awake. Welcome, dear friends, to Buddha Peaceful Mind. If you have been carrying regret, disappointment, old wounds, or the feeling that you are behind in life, this talk is for you. And if this Dharma talk brings you calm, you are warmly invited to like the video and subscribe to Buddha Peaceful Mind, so these long, gentle teachings can keep reaching hearts that need peace in a noisy world. Now, let us begin with a small story. A student once asked a teacher, "Master, is there a medicine for regret?" The teacher smiled and said, "Many people believe that if they could go back, they would make a better choice. If I had chosen a different career, I would be happier. If I had moved to a different city, my life would be easier. If I had not met that person, I would not have been hurt. But if you went back with the same mind you had then, the same fear you had then, the same knowledge you had then, you would choose the same again. Because you did not choose from wisdom you did not yet have. You chose from the conditions that existed inside you at that time." And the teacher added something even deeper. Even if you chose a different road, you would not enter a perfect world. You would simply trade one set of worries for another. The perfect ending you imagine is often only a mirage created by the mind. So the medicine is not to obsess about the road you did not take. The medicine is to understand what the road you took was trying to teach you. This story touches something very human. We do not suffer because we made mistakes. We suffer because we think we should have been someone else. Now, the Buddha offered a path out of this prison. Not by denying the past, but by seeing clearly how the mind clings to fantasy. In Buddhism, suffering is often created by clinging. Clinging to control, clinging to certainty, clinging to the image of who we should be. Regret is a form of clinging. It clings to an imagined past, a past that never happened. And when you cling to an imagined past, you lose the real present. So tonight, we will practice returning. Returning to what is real. Returning to what can be learned. Returning to the breath. Returning to a heart that can soften. Now, let us speak about why regret feels so convincing. Regret feels convincing because it uses a trick. It compares your real life with an imaginary life. An imaginary life always looks cleaner because it has no details, no hidden pain, no unexpected costs. When you imagine a different path, you imagine only the highlight. You do not imagine the loneliness. You do not imagine the new problems. You do not imagine the new karma. You imagine a fantasy. So the mind says, that would have been better. But it is not comparing truth with truth. It is comparing truth with a dream. This is why the Buddha taught us to see clearly, not to be pessimistic, to be free. Now, let us bring this into a second small story. A man named Tuan was unhappy with his career. Every day he told himself, if I had chosen a different major, my life would be better. He repeated this thought for years. It became his identity. One day, he met an old friend who had chosen the major Tuan wished he had chosen. Tuan expected to see a happy life, but the friend looked exhausted. The friend said, I'm successful on the outside, but my health is suffering. My relationships are fragile. My mind is always stressed. Tuan was shocked. He realized he had been worshiping a fantasy. He had been turning someone else's path into an imaginary paradise. That day, something shifted. Tuan stopped saying, I chose the wrong life. He started asking, what is my life asking me to learn right now? And that question became his medicine. Because the Buddha's path is not about a perfect timeline. It is about awakening in the timeline you have. Now, we must be careful here. When we say experiences are teachers, we do not mean pain is good. We do not mean you should seek suffering. We do not mean injustice is okay. We simply mean this. When life brings difficulty, you can either become bitter or become wiser. The Buddha did not romanticize suffering. He offered a way to transform it. Now, let us talk about a powerful Buddhist truth that helps regret. Everything arises from causes and conditions. Your choices were not random. They came from your mind, your environment, your family, your culture, your trauma, your hopes, your fears, your knowledge at the time. So when you look back, do not judge your past self with today's mind. That is unfair. Your past self did not have today's wisdom. So the first practice is compassion for your past self. A gentle phrase, I did the best I could with what I knew then. This is not an excuse, it is honesty. It allows you to learn without hatred. Now let us tell a third story, more intimate. A woman named Mai stayed in a relationship too long. She was hurt many times. When she finally left, regret attacked her. Why did I stay? Why didn't I leave sooner? I wasted years. Regret became her daily pain. One night she listened to a Dharma talk. She heard one sentence. Do not punish yourself for the lesson you had to live through. Mai cried. Because she realized something. She did not stay because she was stupid. She stayed because she was hoping. Because she was afraid, because she did not yet know her own worth, because she had not yet learned boundaries, because her childhood taught her to accept less. These were conditions, and those years, painful as they were, taught her what she could not learn from books. They taught her self-respect. They taught her to see red flags. They taught her to speak up. They taught her to leave. Mai began to practice compassion for the past. She said, I was learning. I was growing. I was becoming awake. Her regret softened. She did not suddenly feel happy, but she stopped stabbing herself. This is the Buddha's medicine. Not magic, not denial. Release. Now you may be thinking, but what if I truly made a mistake? Yes, sometimes we do. Buddhism does not pretend we always act wisely. But the Buddha taught something important. A mistake becomes poison only when you refuse to learn from it. If you learn, it becomes wisdom. If you repair, it becomes virtue.
If you stop repeating it, it becomes liberation. So the question is not, did I make mistakes? The question is, will I turn them into insight? Now let us introduce a phrase that is gentle and powerful.
Release the fantasy. Keep the lesson. Release the fantasy means you stop worshiping the imaginary perfect life. Keep the lesson means you keep the wisdom your experience gave you. This is how you grow. Now let us speak about the ego, because regret often hides ego. Ego says, I should have been perfect. Ego says, I should have known. Ego says, I should have controlled life. But life is uncertain. The Buddha taught that clinging to control is suffering. So when regret arises, you can ask a brave question. What am I clinging to? Am I clinging to being right? Am I clinging to being seen as successful? Am I clinging to a perfect image? When you see the clinging, you can loosen it. And when you loosen it, regret becomes lighter. Now let us explore the line, if you do not learn the lesson, life repeats the class. This is not punishment, it is cause and effect. If you keep choosing from the same wound, you keep meeting the same pain. If you keep speaking from the same anger, you keep creating the same conflict. If you keep running from the same fear, you keep losing the same opportunities. So growth is not about becoming flawless. Growth is about becoming conscious. Now, a small example. If you never learn to set boundaries, you may keep meeting people who cross them. Not because the universe hates you, but because you have not changed the pattern yet. When you change, the pattern changes. This is karma in a simple form. Now, let us make this talk practical. If you want to turn experiences into growth, you can use 3 questions. What happened? What did it teach me? What will I do differently now? These questions transform regret into wisdom. Now, let us practice them briefly. Think of one experience you regret. Choose something moderate, not the heaviest, if it overwhelms you. What happened? Be factual, not dramatic. What did it teach me? Maybe it taught boundaries. Maybe it taught patience. Maybe it taught self-respect. Maybe it taught discernment. What will I do differently now? One small action, one boundary, one habit. This is how regret becomes growth. Now let us talk about the idea that some doors did not open because conditions were not ready. Sometimes a path does not open because conditions are not ready. Sometimes a relationship ends because it would have harmed you more. Sometimes you do not get what you want because what you want would have created suffering you cannot see yet. In Buddhism, we call this causes and conditions, not destiny. Now, a small story about this. A young man desperately wanted a job overseas. He failed the final interview. First arrow, disappointment. He felt regret. If only I had answered differently. If only I had done more. Months later, that company faced a major crisis and laid off many employees. The young man realized he might have suffered greatly there. He did not call it luck or punishment. He called it conditions. The conditions did not support that path, and the closed door saved him from a different suffering. Now we must add another important point. Not every painful experience is a lesson you should accept quietly. Some pain is injustice. Some pain is abuse. Some pain is harm. The Buddha's compassion includes wisdom. Wisdom protects. So if you are in harm, The practice is not to stay. The practice may be to leave, to seek support, to create safety. Growth is not staying in pain. Growth is choosing wisdom. Now let us talk about no self, because it helps regret deeply. Regret says, I am the person who failed. I am the person who wasted time. I am the person who chose wrong. But in Buddhism, the self is not fixed. You are changing, you are learning, you are becoming. So a mistake in the past is not a prison, it is a chapter. You are not the same person, and you do not need to live like you are. Now we will include a gentle contemplation. Sit comfortably. Feel your breath. Bring to mind your past self, the one you judge. See them clearly, not as a villain, as a human. See their fear, see their hope, see their confusion. Now say quietly, may you be forgiven. May you be at peace. Thank you for surviving. Thank you for trying. Now return to breath. Now bring your present self into focus. Say quietly, I am here now. I can choose differently now. I can learn now. Now, let us talk about comparison, because regret often grows from comparing your timeline with others. Contentment, sympathetic joy, equanimity. Contentment says, I can be at peace with what is here. Sympathetic joy says, I can be happy for others without envy. Equanimity says, life changes, and I will not cling. So when regret is fueled by comparison, practice sympathetic joy. Think of someone doing well. Say quietly, may your happiness continue. May you use it wisely. May I grow in my own time. Now, a story. A woman named Lila felt behind because her friends were married and she was single. Regret grew. If only I had chosen differently, I would be married by now. Then she met a friend who was married, but deeply unhappy. The friend felt lonely inside the marriage. Lila realized again. She had been comparing her real life with someone else's image. She stopped measuring herself by timelines. She began measuring herself by peace. Her regret softened. Now, let us bring encouragement in a grounded way. Wholesome effort creates wholesome results. Not always immediately, but over time. Effort is like planting seeds. You water, you wait. So when life is hard, do not conclude that you are cursed. Sometimes you are simply in the growing season. Now, we will place a subtle call to action. If these reflections are helping you, you are welcome to like the video and subscribe to Buddha Peaceful Mind. Your support helps keep these long voiceover teachings available for anyone who needs calm guidance. Now we will move into a longer story arc that carries the whole message. A man named Min moved to a new city for opportunity. But things did not go well. He felt lonely. He felt lost. He felt he had made a mistake. Regret attacked him every night. If only I had stayed in my old city. If only I had chosen differently. He became bitter. One day, Min visited a small temple. He sat quietly and listened to a monk speaking about causes and conditions. The monk said, "You cannot know what would have happened on another road. You only know what is happening on this road. So use this road to become wise." Min felt something soften. He realized his regret was a fantasy stealing his present. So Min chose one practice. Each time regret appeared, he asked 3 questions. What happened? What did it teach me? What will I do now? He wrote. What happened? I moved and I feel lonely. What did it teach me? I need community. I need friendships. I need to care for my body. I need to stop isolating. What will I do now? Join one class. Go to the temple weekly. Volunteer once a month. He took those steps. Over weeks, he built community. He still missed home sometimes, but his regret became smaller because his life became real again. Min later said, "My city did not change my life. My mindset did. I stopped living in the imaginary road." Now we will do a gentle integration practice. Feel your breath. Think of one regret, a memory. Notice how the mind tries to create a perfect ending. See it as a mirage. Now say quietly, release the fantasy, keep the lesson. Now ask, what is the lesson? Let an answer come. Now choose one small action you can take this week. Then return to breath. Now remember, we cannot force awakening in others. We can only offer conditions, a kind word, a calm presence, a safe space. Each person awakens when they are ready. So do not become frustrated. Do not become arrogant. Just practice. Your life becomes the teaching. Now we will end with a final practice and blessing. Place attention on the breath. Bring to mind your past, your losses, your regrets. Place a hand on the heart if you can. Say quietly, I forgive myself for not knowing what I know now. I forgive myself for choosing with fear when I did not yet know peace. I forgive myself for being human. Now breathe. Now look forward gently. Say, I will take one small wise step today. I will not live in fantasy. I will live in the present. Now, dear friends, if this talk has supported you, you are welcome to like the video and subscribe to Buddha Peaceful Mind. It helps keep this calm space alive. May you be safe. May you be peaceful. May your regrets turn into wisdom. May your losses turn into compassion. May your wounds turn into softness. And may you remember this. You do not become awake by avoiding life. You become awake by meeting life with honesty, humility, and love. Thank you for listening. And now, dear friends, let us deepen this teaching in a way that feels like a true Dharma talk. Because regret is not only about the past, regret is also about the future. Regret is the fear that you will keep repeating the same pain. Regret is the mind trying to protect you by replaying. It says, if I replay it enough, I will never do it again. But replay is not wisdom. Replay is punishment. Wisdom is learning. Wisdom is practice. Wisdom is changing the conditions. So the Buddha's medicine is not to replay until you bleed. It is to learn until you become free. Now, let us talk about the difference between guilt and wisdom. Guilt has 2 faces. One face is wise remorse. Wise remorse is clean. It says, I see the harm. I will repair if I can. I will not repeat it. Then it bows and leaves. The other face is toxic guilt. Toxic guilt is a cage. It says, I am hopeless. I will punish myself forever. It does not repair. It only hurts. The Buddha's path encourages wise remorse, not toxic guilt. So if you carry regret, ask yourself gently, is my regret helping me repair and grow? Or is my regret only punishing me? If it is only punishing, it is not wisdom. It is the ego wearing a sad mask. Now here is a practical tool. When regret appears, do 3 steps. Step 1, name it. Regret is here. Step 2, ask, what is the lesson? Step 3, act. What is one small action I can take now to honor that lesson? Then stop. Do not keep stabbing yourself. This simple structure turns regret into growth. Now let us tell another story, because stories help the mind remember. A man named Aaron once said something cruel to his younger brother in anger. The brother never forgot it. Years later, Aaron carried regret. He replayed the moment again and again. He imagined taking it back. He imagined saying better words. But the past did not change. One day, Aaron finally understood. Regret alone is not repair. So he chose wise remorse. He called his brother and said, I want to acknowledge something. Years ago, I said words that were cruel. I was angry, but that is not an excuse. I am sorry. You did not deserve that. I have carried it for a long time. I want to repair our relationship if you are open. The brother was quiet. Then he said, I waited years to hear you say that. Aaron cried. The regret softened, not because the past changed, but because the present became honest. This is the Buddha's way. Not perfect, but truthful. Now there is another subtle trap in regret. Sometimes we regret not because we truly harmed someone, but because life did not match our fantasy. We regret because we are not in the right timeline. We regret because we did not achieve a milestone. We regret because we did not become the version of ourselves we imagined. This regret is often fueled by comparison. The mind says, everyone else is ahead. Everyone else is living better. I am behind. But the Buddha taught that comparison is a thief. Comparison steals peace. It steals gratitude. It steals joy. It steals the present. So if you want to reduce regret, you must reduce comparison. Now, how do you reduce comparison? First, remember that you cannot see the full life of another person. You see a surface. You see a highlight. You do not see their private grief, their private fear, their private loneliness. Second, remember that every path has its own price. A path that looks bright from far away may feel heavy from inside. Third, return to your own path, your own practice, your own next step. Now, a story about this. A woman named Hannah regretted not becoming a doctor. She thought, if I had become a doctor, I would be respected and happy. She carried this regret for years. Then she met a doctor who was exhausted, burned out, and lonely. The doctor said, I am respected, but I am tired. I have money, but my mind is not peaceful. I feel like I missed my own life. Hannah realized she had been worshiping an image, not a reality.
That day, she began to ask a different question. What kind of life creates peace? Not status, not applause. Peace. And this changed everything. Now, dear friends, let us bring the Buddha's teaching of impermanence into this, because impermanence is the great antidote to regret. Regret often says, it is too late. It says the past has defined me. It says I cannot change. But impermanence says everything changes. You are changing. Your mind is changing. Your conditions are changing. So even if you cannot change the past, you can change what the past creates in you. This is freedom. Now, let us speak about karma in a simple way.
Karma is not fate. Karma is action and consequence. Your past actions created certain consequences, but your present actions are creating new consequences now. So your life is not a prison. It is a process. And that means there is always a next step. This is why the Buddha emphasized the present moment. The present is where karma is made. The present is where the path is walked. So if you are trapped in regret, return to the present. Not as a slogan, as a real action. Drink water, breathe, take one step, make one call, write one plan, rest your body, speak one apology, set one boundary. One small action is a doorway out of fantasy. Now, let us add a gentle practice here. Place attention on the breath. Inhale gently. Exhale slowly. Now say quietly, the past is a teacher, not a prison. The present is a doorway, not a punishment. Now we will explore a deeper aspect of your text. The idea that the path is not cheap, that awakening is not light. We will refine this in a softer way. Real growth costs something. It costs pride. It costs old identity. It costs the comfort of denial. It costs the addiction to being right. It costs the fantasy that life should be perfect. In Buddhism, we call this letting go. Letting go is not losing. Letting go is relief. Now, we will talk about letting go of the self-image. Because regret often clings to an image. I should have been smarter. I should have been stronger. I should have been more spiritual. I should have been different. This is an image. The Buddha taught non-self. Not to confuse you, but to free you. Non-self means you are not one fixed thing. You are a changing process. So you do not need to keep worshiping an image. You can keep practicing. Now, let us add another story. A man named Vin regretted moving abroad. He felt lonely. He felt he lost years. He told himself, I wasted my youth. Then he asked, what did I learn? He realized he learned independence. He learned humility. He learned how to be alone without collapsing. He learned language. He learned compassion for immigrants. He learned to appreciate family. His regrets softened because the meaning became clear. The past did not change, but its value changed. This is an important truth. Meaning can transform pain. Not fake meaning, real meaning. The meaning that comes from honest learning. Now let us speak about the role of pain in awakening, in a balanced way. Pain does not make you wise automatically. Pain can make you bitter. Pain can make you cruel. Pain can make you numb. What makes pain transform into wisdom is awareness. Awareness means you see your pain without using it to harm others. You see your pain without using it to hate yourself. You see your pain and ask, what is the lesson? Then you act. So pain is not the teacher by itself. Awareness is the teacher. Now we will transition into more practical exercises, because a 68-minute talk should offer tools, not only ideas. We will give you a 3-part practice you can use for any regret. First, compassion for the past self. Second, lesson for the present self. Third, vow for the future self. Compassion, lesson, vow. Compassion says, I did my best with what I knew then. Lesson says, this is what I learned. Vow says, this is how I will live now. Now, let us practice this gently. Choose one regret. Compassion, I did my best with what I knew then. Lesson, what did I learn? Vow, what is one small thing I will do now? This is how regret becomes maturity. Now, we will continue with more stories and a longer guided meditation to keep the listener held and engaged. Now, let us speak about the mind's favorite illusion, the illusion of the perfect road. When you stand at a crossroads in life, you cannot see the full future of any road. You can only see the first few steps. But the mind, years later, pretends it can see. It says, that road would have been perfect. This is an illusion. Every road has its storms. Every road has its losses. Every road has its loneliness. Every road has its disappointments. So the Buddha's wisdom is to stop worshiping the invisible road and to practice on the visible road. Practice where your feet are. This is not resignation. This is power. Because the only place you can act is where you are. Now, another illusion in regret is the illusion of total control. Regret says, if I had controlled better, I would not suffer. If I had known more, I would not be hurt. But the Buddha taught that life is uncertain. Bodies get sick. People change. Conditions shift. Control is limited. So the Buddha's path is not to demand control. It is to develop resilience and wisdom. Resilience is the ability to bend without breaking. Wisdom is the ability to see clearly and choose well. Now, there is a gentle phrase you can use when regret appears. I could not control everything then. I do not control everything now, but I can practice. This phrase is humble and freeing. Now, let us bring in a story about health. A man named Daniel regretted not taking care of his body in his 20s. He ate poorly, slept little, and ignored warning signs. In his 30s, he developed health issues. First arrow. Then regret became a second arrow. I ruined my life. I deserve this. It is too late. His teacher did not deny responsibility. The teacher said, yes, learn from it, but do not punish yourself forever. Daniel practiced the 3-part method. Compassion. I did not know what I know now. Lesson. My body needs care. Vow. I will take one step today. A walk, better food, more sleep. Over time, Daniel's health improved. Not perfectly, but enough. And his regret softened because it became practice. This story teaches something important. Responsibility without self-hatred is wisdom. Responsibility with self-hatred is poison. Now, let us talk about forgiveness again. But forgiveness toward yourself. Many people forgive others easier than they forgive themselves. They say, "I can forgive you, but I cannot forgive me." This is common because the mind believes that punishment will prevent future mistakes. But punishment rarely creates change. Compassion creates change. So self-forgiveness is not weakness. Self-forgiveness is the foundation for real transformation. Self-forgiveness means you stop identifying as the worst moment of your life. You become a learner again. Now, a story. A woman named Sarah had an abortion in her youth and carried regret for decades. She punished herself inside. She believed she did not deserve peace. A teacher guided her gently. The teacher did not tell her what to believe. The teacher asked her one question. If your younger self came to you crying, would you punish her or hold her? Sarah began to cry because she knew the answer. She would hold her. So Sarah practiced holding her younger self in meditation. She practiced compassion. She practiced making amends through kindness, not through self-hatred. She donated to a women's shelter. She supported young mothers. She became a source of care in the world. Her regret did not disappear instantly, but the poison softened. She learned something profound. You cannot change the past, but you can change the kind of person you are because of it. This is redemption in the Buddhist way, not through shame, through compassion and practice. Now let us talk about relationships again, because many regrets come from love. People regret staying too long. People regret leaving too soon. People regret not saying, "I love you." People regret saying words they cannot take back. In relationships, regret is heavy because love is deep. So the practice is very important. If you can repair, repair. If you can apologize, apologize. If you can express love, express love. If you cannot, then practice release. Release does not mean forgetting. Release means you stop stabbing yourself every day. Now, a simple relationship repair phrase. I want to acknowledge my part. I am sorry for what I did. I want to do better. Say it gently, without excuses, without defending. This is powerful. Now, let us include one more short story. A son regretted not visiting his father more before the father died. First arrow, loss. Second arrow, guilt. He punished himself. He said, "I am a bad son." A teacher guided him. Your guilt is love, but it is turned into a weapon. The son practiced a different response. He made offerings in his father's name. He cared for his mother. He helped elders in his community. He lived with gratitude. He visited his father's grave with calm presence. His guilt softened. His love became action. This is the Buddha's path. When you cannot go back, go forward with wisdom. Now, we will move into a long, guided contemplation that feels like a gentle inner conversation. Because your channel style often includes these soothing parts. Sit comfortably. Feel the breath. Inhale gently. Exhale slowly. Bring to mind a regret that returns often. Now, notice what the mind says. I should have known. I should have done better. Now, answer gently. At that time, I did not know what I know now. Now, notice what the mind fears. I will repeat it. I will fail again. Now, answer gently. I can learn. I can practice. I can take one step. Now, ask, what did this experience teach me? Let an answer arise. Maybe it taught boundaries. Maybe it taught patience. Maybe it taught humility. Maybe it taught self-respect. Maybe it taught discernment. Now, say quietly, thank you for the lesson. I release the fantasy. Now, choose one vow. From today, I will do one small thing differently. It might be one boundary, one honest conversation, one healthier habit, one apology, one act of service, 1 hour of sleep, one morning without scrolling. Now, breathe. This is how the past becomes fertilizer instead of poison. Now we will return to more teaching and more stories, because we want this voiceover to feel full for about 68 minutes. Now, dear friends, let us speak about the spiritual meaning of experience, but in a grounded Buddhist way. Sometimes people say, everything happens for a reason. That can comfort some people, but it can also confuse others. The Buddha's language is simpler. Everything happens because causes and conditions come together. Sometimes those causes are visible. Sometimes they are hidden. Sometimes they are inside you. Sometimes they are in the world. But the key is this. When you understand causes and conditions, you stop blaming yourself as if you were the only cause. And you stop blaming others as if they were the only cause. You become wise. You ask, what conditions led here? What conditions can I change now? This is liberation. Now, regret often tries to make you blame one thing. If only I had not done that, everything would be perfect. But life is not one cause. Life is many causes. So regret is too simple to be true. This is why regret is a mirage. Now, another big teaching is acceptance of uncertainty. Regret is often a form of refusing uncertainty. The mind wants a clean explanation, but life is messy. So the Buddha invites you to sit inside uncertainty with breath. Not to like uncertainty, to stop fighting it. Now, a small practice for uncertainty-driven regret. When the mind says, if only, answer with this. I do not know what would have happened. I only know what is here. So I will practice here. This sentence cuts fantasy. Now let us talk about the phrase in your text about ego dissolving. You wrote that growth often requires reducing ego. In Buddhism, ego is not a demon. It is just clinging to self-image. I must look good. I must be right. I must be admired. I must be ahead. When ego is strong, regret is strong. Because regret attacks the ego. It says, you are not who you wanted to be. So one of the deepest medicines for regret is humility. Humility does not mean thinking you are worthless. Humility means you accept that you are human. You accept that you will learn through experience. You accept that you will not control everything. You accept that you will make mistakes. And you accept that you can grow. Humility is peace. Now, a short story about humility. A monk was asked, Master, how did you become so calm? He said, I stopped demanding that I be perfect. This is very simple, but very deep. Now, let us talk about the teacher does not walk the same road idea. in a gentle way. In Buddhism, the best teaching is not forcing. It is offering conditions. A teacher can show the path, but you must walk. A healer can offer medicine, but you must take it. So do not be angry when others do not awaken quickly, and do not be angry when you do not awaken quickly. Practice is gradual. Now, let us speak about repetition. Sometimes life repeats a lesson until it is learned. This is not a punishment, it is a pattern. If you keep choosing the same kind of relationship, you meet the same pain. If you keep ignoring your health, you meet the same crisis. If you keep avoiding honest conversations, you meet the same loneliness. So if something repeats, ask, what is the lesson? Then make one change. This is how patterns break. Now, a story. A woman kept meeting partners who were emotionally unavailable. She regretted each relationship. Why do I choose this? What is wrong with me? A teacher guided her to see the pattern. She learned she was afraid of true intimacy. She learned she believed she had to earn love. She learned she accepted crumbs. This was painful to see. First arrow. But then she practiced. She did not add a second arrow of shame. She said, I learned this pattern. Now I can change it. She went to therapy. She practiced boundaries. She practiced choosing slowly. Her future relationships became healthier. Her past regret became wisdom. This is the goal. Now let us speak about the bright side of hardship, without worshiping hardship. Hardship can wake you up to impermanence. Hardship can humble pride. Hardship can deepen compassion. But hardship is not necessary for wisdom. Some people learn through joy, through love, through good teachers. So do not chase pain. When pain comes, learn. When joy comes, be grateful. Both can teach. Now we will add a short gratitude practice here, because gratitude helps soften the mind's obsession with the past. Look around. Find one small good thing. A breath, a cup of water, a quiet moment, a friend, a body that still carries you. Say quietly, thank you. Gratitude does not erase regret, but it prevents regret from becoming the whole sky. Now, we will move toward the later part of this talk with another story arc, one that includes a turning point. A man named Ken regretted moving to a different country. He felt he missed his family. He felt he missed opportunities at home. He was trapped in if only. One day his mother became ill. He flew home. He felt guilt and regret. Then his mother said something simple. I am glad you went, because you became kinder there. You became more patient. You learned to appreciate home. Ken was shocked. He realized that his experience had changed him, and his mother could see the change. Ken's regret softened, because he could finally see the value of his path. The pain was real, but the wisdom was real too. Now, we will do one final long contemplation before closing to help this teaching settle. Feel your breath. Inhale gently. Exhale slowly. Bring to mind one regret. Now imagine it as a stone in your hand. Notice how heavy it feels. Now ask, what is the lesson in this stone? Let an answer come. Now imagine turning the stone into a seed. The seed is the lesson. The seed is the wisdom. Now, plant the seed in the soil of your present life. What does that look like? One boundary, one habit, one apology, one act of service, 1 hour of rest. Now, imagine watering the seed with patience, day by day. Now, imagine the seed growing into a calmer version of you, not perfect, but wiser. Now, breathe. This is how experience becomes growth. Now we are ready to close with a clear recap, a gentle vow, and a blessing. Now, dear friends, we will add a gentle section that many listeners need, a section about letting go of the fantasy without becoming hopeless. Some people fear letting go. They think, if I stop regretting, I will become careless. If I stop punishing myself, I will repeat my mistakes. If I accept my past, I will settle for less. But acceptance is not settling. Acceptance is clarity. When you accept your past, you stop wasting energy fighting it, and that energy becomes available for change. Punishment rarely creates change. Clarity creates change. So the Buddha's medicine is not punishment. It is awareness and wise effort. Now, wise effort has 4 parts. You reduce unwholesome states that have already arisen. You prevent unwholesome states from arising. You cultivate wholesome states. You maintain wholesome states. In simple language, it means this. You stop feeding what harms you. You start feeding what heals you. So if regret is harming you, stop feeding it. How do you feed regret? You replay old scenes. You compare your life to imaginary life. You stalk the past through social media. You keep asking why, not what now. You punish your past self with today's mind. If you want peace, stop feeding these habits. Now, feed what heals you. Breath, kindness, honest learning, small wise actions, gratitude, wise friendship, service. This is a path. Now, let us talk about wise friendship. Because regret grows in isolation. When you are alone, the mind becomes a harsh judge. When you have wise companionship, the mind becomes gentler. Wise friendship is not a person who agrees with everything you say. Wise friendship is a person who helps you see clearly. A person who reminds you of your dignity. A person who helps you return to reality. So if you are trapped in regret, reach out. One person, one conversation, one honest sharing. This is not weakness, it is wisdom. Now, a story. A man named Kiet carried regret about a business failure. He hid it. He was ashamed. He isolated. His regret grew into depression. One day he met a friend and finally spoke honestly. I failed. I feel ashamed. I cannot stop replaying. The friend did not judge. The friend said, "You learned. You survived. You can rebuild." That one conversation did not solve everything, but it opened a window. Light entered. Kiet's regret softened, because he was no longer alone in it. This is why the Buddha valued spiritual friendship, because we are not meant to carry everything alone. Now let us talk about action, because action is the antidote to rumination. Rumination is the mind moving without moving. Action is moving without drama. So when regret appears, choose one small action, one step that honors the lesson. If you regret neglecting health, take a walk. If you regret hurting someone, apologize. If you regret wasting time, start one small project. If you regret isolation, message someone. Small actions restore dignity. Now a story. A woman regretted not learning a skill earlier. She told herself, "I'm too old now." A teacher said, "The best time was 10 years ago. The second best time is today." She began learning 10 minutes a day. In a year, she was proud. Not because she became perfect, but because she stopped using regret as an excuse. This is the Buddha's path, one step. Now we will do a longer, guided reflection that helps you release the illusion of the perfect road. Feel your breath. Inhale gently. Exhale slowly. Imagine two roads behind you. One is the road you took. One is the road you did not take. Now notice how the mind paints the road you did not take. It paints it with bright colors. It hides the storms. Now, gently say, "I do not know what that road would have brought. I release the fantasy." Now turn to the road you took. See its pain. See its lessons. See the strength you gained. See the compassion you gained. See the wisdom you earned. Now say quietly, "I keep the lesson." Now choose one way to honor that lesson today. Then breathe. Now, we will prepare to close. But before we end, we will place 3 short teachings in your pocket. Teachings you can remember easily. First, do not judge your past self with today's mind. Second, release the fantasy, keep the lesson. Third, one small action in the present is worth 1,000 regrets about the past. Now we will close with a vow and blessing. Now, dear friends, let us add one final layer that makes this talk feel complete. A layer of gentle, practical discipline. Because awakening is not only insight, awakening is training. So here is a simple 7-day practice for regret and growth. Day 1. Each time regret appears, you do not fight it. You label it. Regret. Then you breathe. One long exhale. Day 2. You practice compassion for your past self. Once today, whisper, "I did the best I could with what I knew then." Day 3. You practice the lesson question. When regret appears, ask, "What is the lesson?" Write one sentence. Day 4. You practice the action step. Choose one small action that honors your lesson. One phone call, one boundary, one walk, one apology. Day 5. You practice gratitude. Find one small thing you can appreciate today. Say thank you. Day 6. You practice wise friendship. Reach out to one person. Share honestly. Not to complain, but to connect. Day 7. You review. Not with shame, with kindness. What did I learn this week? What one pattern do I want to change next? This practice is small, but it changes your relationship with regret. It turns regret from a prison into a teacher. Now, here is a shorter daily mantra you can use anytime. Release the fantasy. Keep the lesson. Take one step. Repeat it. Release the fantasy. Keep the lesson. Take one step. This mantra is simple, but it is powerful because it returns you to reality, and reality is where freedom lives. Now, let us speak about peace. Peace does not mean your past was perfect. Peace means you stop fighting your past. Peace means you allow your story to be human, with mistakes, with growth, with scars, with lessons, and then you live today. Now, dear friends, if you have stayed with this talk, you have already practiced something important. You have practiced patience. You have practiced listening. You have practiced staying with your own mind without running away. That itself is growth. If this Dhamma talk has supported you, you are welcome to like the video and subscribe to Buddha Peaceful Mind. Your support helps keep long, gentle voiceover teachings available for those who need calm guidance at night, in stress, in regret, and in pain. Now we will end with a vow. Today I will stop punishing my past self. Today I will learn the lesson and take one small step. Today I will choose presence over fantasy. And we will end with a blessing. May you be safe. May you be peaceful. May you forgive yourself for not knowing what you know now. May your regrets transform into wisdom. May your losses transform into compassion. May your wounds transform into softness. May you trust that wherever you are, this is the place you can practice. May you trust that what you have lived can become light, not only weight. May you walk forward with a gentle heart and a clear mind. Thank you for listening, dear friends. And because the heart needs softness at the end, let us rest with one final meditation. You do not need to do anything. Just listen. Feel the breath. Inhale gently. Exhale slowly. Now, imagine your life as a long river. The river has bends. The river has stones. The river has storms. The river also has quiet mornings. When you regret, you try to freeze one bend of the river. You try to live there, but the river is moving. So let the river move. Let the past be past. Not forgotten, but not held. Now place your attention on the heart. Bring your past self into the heart. The younger you. The version of you who was confused, afraid, hopeful. Say quietly, may you be forgiven. May you be held. May you be at peace. Now, bring your present self into the heart. Say quietly, may I be wise. May I be kind. May I take one small step. Now bring your future self into the heart. Say quietly, may you receive the fruits of my practice. May you live lighter. May you live truer. Now breathe again. Inhale. Exhale. Now imagine putting down a heavy backpack. That backpack is the fantasy that life should have been perfect. Put it down. Feel your shoulders relax. Now, pick up only one small seed. That seed is the lesson. Hold it gently. Now plant it in today. One act, one step, one breath. Now rest. This rest is not laziness, it is wisdom, because the mind heals when it stops fighting. Now, dear friends, we truly end. Thank you for listening. One more short teaching before we close, because it is a common hidden regret. Many people regret not being more present. They regret being busy. They regret chasing approval. They regret missing simple moments. This regret can be painful, but it can also become a beautiful turning point because presence is always available now. The past cannot be relived, but the present can be lived. So if you regret missing time with your family, call them today. If you regret neglecting your body, walk today. If you regret neglecting your mind, breathe today. If you regret not speaking kindly, speak kindly today. Today is not a place to punish yourself. Today is a place to begin. Now, a final story. An old man sat by the river and said, "I regret many things." A monk asked, "What do you regret the most?" The old man said, "I regret that I spent so many years regretting." The monk smiled, because this is the most honest lesson. Regret steals time, so do not give it more years. Learn, act, love, breathe, be present. This is the Buddha's gift. Now we end. Now, because this channel often feels like a quiet companion at night, let us slow down and offer a final, gentle reassurance. You have already survived so much. If you doubt it, look back. Look at the chapters you thought would break you. Look at the nights you thought you would not get through. Look at the days you thought you were finished. And yet, you are here. This means you are not weak. You are growing. So let your past be proof of your strength, not a reason to hate yourself. Let your mistakes be teachers, not chains. Let your pain be a doorway to compassion, not a doorway to bitterness. And remember, you do not have to become perfect. You only have to become more honest, more kind, and more awake than yesterday. One breath, one step, one day. Now we truly close with silence in the heart. Thank you. And to make the teaching even more practical, here are 5 small sentences you can borrow when regret attacks. When you catch yourself saying, "If only," say, "I do not know that road. I will practice on this one." When you catch yourself judging your past, say, "I did the best I could with what I knew then." When you catch yourself fantasizing a perfect life, say, "Release the fantasy. Keep the lesson." When you feel overwhelmed by the past, say, "One step today is enough." When you feel shame, say, "This is human. I will not abandon myself." These sentences are not magic, but they are doors. Each door leads back to the present, and the present is where your freedom lives. Now, thank you for staying with this talk. Before you go, take one last breath with me. Inhale gently. Exhale slowly. Now, let the mind repeat one vow. May I stop living in the road I did not take. May I live in the road I am on. May I learn what I came here to learn. May I love what is in front of me. May I take one small, wise step each day. Now breathe again. This is enough. And if you want to keep the lesson close, remember this simple image. Life is a school without a fixed schedule. Some people learn quickly. Some people learn slowly. Some people learn through joy. Some people learn through pain. But everyone learns. So do not shame yourself for being in the classroom. Just keep learning. And when you forget, return. Return to breath. Return to kindness. Return to the next step. That is all. Now, we will leave you with a final moment of quiet. No more words, just breath. Inhale, exhale. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw soften. Let the past loosen. Let the present arrive. Inhale, exhale, and rest. Thank you for being here. One last short story, because stories stay in the heart. A traveler carried a heavy bag up a mountain. Halfway up, he sat down, exhausted, and said, "My bag is too heavy." A monk passing by asked, "What is inside your bag?" The traveler opened it. Inside were stones. The monk asked, "Why do you carry stones?" The traveler said, "Every stone is a mistake I made. Every stone is a regret." The monk smiled gently and said, "Keep the lessons, but you do not need the stones." The traveler asked, "How?" The monk said, "Choose one stone, look at it, learn from it, then put it down. Then choose the next." Do not carry your past as punishment. Carry it as wisdom. The traveler began to put stones down, one by one, and the mountain became possible again. Dear friends, you can do the same. Keep the lesson. Put down the stone. Now truly rest. And remember, growth is quiet. Sometimes it looks like a deep breath instead of a big victory. Sometimes it looks like an apology instead of a perfect image. Sometimes it looks like choosing peace instead of being right. Small moments build a whole life. Now thank you for listening, dear friends. May you walk gently. May you grow quietly. May you be at peace. Good night, and be well. If you return tomorrow, return with one breath. That breath is already a new beginning.